Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
There Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone, a marvellous song by the late great Bill Withers. Would that song have been so good if he had sung There Isn't Any Sunshine When She's Not Here? Without the ain't, you end up sounding like a lovesick meteorologist. What about this? Elvis Presley, from the dawn of rock and roll.
You would be nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and he ain't no friend of mine.
And without the ain't, you're not anything except a hound dog crying all the time. Well, you haven't ever caught a rabbit and you're not my friend. That ain't rock and roll. Probably rock and roll would never have happened if he had sung that. No Presley, no Beatles, no Stones. The world would have been a different place. We'd all still be singing How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? So thank God for ain't, a word with attitude. If you think that ain't is incorrect English, well, let me tell you, it ain't necessarily so. Sometimes ain't is the right word, and it ain't just songs neither. Stay tuned and I'll explain. First of all, what is ain't and how do we use it? Ain't means am not, is not, are not, has not, and have not. When talking about possession, ain't got replaces don't have, doesn't have, haven't got, hasn't got. For example, I ain't got a pen or I ain't got time. Very useful, I think you'll agree. Let's start with some examples of usage. I ain't hungry. It ain't difficult. I ain't got a job. Ain't is frequently used in movie dialogue, especially in films that aim to capture casual speech. Here are some examples from American and British films.
Now get this, you double-crossing chimpanzee. There ain't going to be any interview and there ain't going to be any story. And that certified check of yours is leaving with me in 20 minutes. I wouldn't cover the burning of Rome for you if they were just lighting it up.
What's that? That ain't proper writing. I can't read that.
I love to leave my door unlocked when I leave the house. But this ain't Canada.
Come on. Where to? Your place, if they ain't searched his room yet.
I got the feeling you ain't got any. Am I right or am I right?
In English, we don't normally like to use double negatives. However, if you're going to use ain't, a double negative is a must. It won't really work any other way. So either say, I haven't done anything, or I ain't done nothing, but don't mix them. Don't say I ain't done anything or I haven't done nothing.
Then what's the idea anyway? I ain't done nothing. Oh, it's you, huh?
Let's have a look at the history. How did ain't originate? Ain't, in the sense of are not and is not, may have evolved from AMN'T and what's known by linguists as the AMN'T gap. What is the AMN'T gap? The verb to be has three forms. You have am, you have is, and you have are. In the negative form, you have two ways to make contractions with is. She isn't my cousin. She's not my cousin. You have two ways to make negative contractions with are. You aren't my cousin. You're not my cousin. And with am, you've got I'm not your cousin. But wait, there is something missing here. There's no amn't. I amn't your cousin. No, that's not standard English. That's the AMN'T gap. But some people started saying it like that, and they still do in a few English dialects. Then AMN'T got shortened because three consonants together are difficult to say. AMN'T. Then it became ANT, and then AINT, and voila. It sounded good, so they use it to replace is not and are not. So he ain't, you ain't, and all the others. An early example of usage is from 1696. John Vanbrugh in the play The Relapse. Hark thee, shoemaker, these shoes ain't ugly, but they don't fit me. This here is written as ants, not AINT. AINT as have not may have evolved independently. Some dialects, they drop the H in haven't and hasn't. So haven't, hasn't. And again, the three vowels together may have got shortened to two. So hasn't became asn't, became ant, became ain't. In 19th century novels, ain't is used extensively in the colloquial speech of working class characters. Here's an example from Dickens. Beautiful morning, ain't it? Glad to see you up so early. And an American one from Mark Twain. New York ain't no sociable place. I don't reckon. It ain't no name for it. Is ain't bad English? No, ain't bad English, but sometimes it's wrong English. That ain't the same thing. So when do we use ain't? One common misconception is that ain't is a slang word. Well, it ain't, or not exactly. It's better to define it as a form of informal speech. Slang, on the other hand, is a language used by a particular group, whether it be Generation Z or an ethnic group, or a particular region. For example, people from Wales often use the word tidy to mean excellent. But to me, tidy means, well, tidy. Their way of using it won't be understood much outside of Wales, whereas everyone in the English-speaking world, more or less, will understand ain't, even if they don't use it. By the way, if you find this video tidy, then why not do that subscribing thing? It ain't complicated, just press the button. Class is an important factor. When it comes to ain't, you're more likely to hear ain't being used by the plumber than a lawyer, by a taxi driver than a doctor. But even a plumber and a taxi driver may not use it all the time. And maybe the lawyer and the doctor will use it in certain situations. It depends on something called register. If you're learning English, you absolutely need to know about register. It's one of those things that is often overlooked by English teachers, and it's so important if you're a non-native speaker. You need to know it to really to master the English language. And I'm not going to go into much detail here, but I've made a video about register, and you can check it out here. And in the context of ain't, you might use ain't in an informal or an intimate register, but not in a formal register. Now, I said that working class dialects are more likely to use ain't. The plumber and the taxi driver I spoke about will probably not use ain't in formal situations. When applying for a loan at the bank, when giving a speech at a wedding, or any formal situation. And in addition to all this, in writing, you'd rarely use it. There are some exceptions, which I'll come to in a minute. To sum up, ain't is only incorrect if it's used in the wrong register. And that's why there are so many songs that use ain't, because almost all songs are written in the informal or the intimate register. If you're writing about being jilted by a lover, you don't use a formal register. Bob Dylan is arguably the best lyricist of all time, and he uses ain't all the time in his songs. He has this great instinct of making a song sound like they were written by someone close to you. And he sang, "It Ain't Me, Babe."
Someone to open each and every door, but it ain't me, babe. No, 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 it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for.
It ain't me you're looking for, babe. If it's sung, it's not I you're looking for, babe, that wouldn't work, would it? That sounds ludicrous. And by the way, it's not just ain't. So much grammar depends on register. And as I said, that's a point which is often overlooked. To give one more example, Bob and I played guitar on London Bridge. Me and Bob, or if you prefer, Bob and me, play guitar on London Bridge. Once again, it's about register. The correct pronoun depends on whom you're speaking to, when you're speaking to. If you're speaking to somebody close or somebody that you hardly know your audience. So double negatives, who versus whom, whether the grammar is right or wrong depends on the register. Now, there are some exceptions to what I've been saying. There are a few cases, mainly with fixed expressions, which use the word ain't, where you can use it in formal speaking and even in formal writing. And here are a few of those fixed expressions with some examples. And the first one is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And here's an example sentence. We've had the same menu at Wellington's restaurant for 150 years. And now you want to change it and put avocado toast and spiced pumpkin lattes on the menu? No, no, no. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you probably guess this expression simply means that if it's working, you don't need to change it. The next expression is, it ain't what it used to be. And this just means that something was better in the past. So, for example, music ain't what it used to be. You ain't heard or you ain't seen nothing yet. And it means, yes, you're impressed by what I've done, but what follows is going to be even better. You think that was good. Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Say it ain't so. This is used to express disbelief, and it's often used humorously. What? We've run out of beer? Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. What? You haven't become a patron of Let Them Talk TV with fabulous exclusive videos as well as the opportunity for me to answer your English language questions personally? Link in the description. Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. The next expression is, ain't it the truth? An emphatic way of saying that something is true. Once again, often used ironically.
Read what my medal says. Courage. Ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth?
If you said these expressions without ain't, they would sound perhaps a bit strange because they are fixed expressions. If you're interested to learn more stuff about English, then you could join my newsletter, link in the description. Well, I ain't got nothing more to say, so that's it. Have a beautiful day. Bye.